Welcome back to the Gun Collective. My name is Jon Patton, and you are watching The Fight for Gun Rights. If you're new here, please consider subscribing because we put out multiple gun industry and gun rights news videos every single week, and we would love to have you back. Something pretty darn important happened just last night, so this video is going to be unedited because of time constraints and wanting to get this info to you guys quickly. You're probably going to notice the things that Izzy does on a regular basis. Now, the meat of this. We knew this was coming, and ATF released what they are calling Proposed Rule 2021 R05. Before we get too far, the word proposed is the key part of this. That means it's not official just yet, and that we have an opportunity for comments. That's a very important thing. Now, what is the proposed rule? In large part, this 115-page document is an attempt to regulate incomplete firearm frames, commonly known as 80% receivers. I'll walk you through it as we go. First, they want to change the definition of firearm frame or receiver. That's the core of this, at least as I interpret it. According to the ATF summary, under the proposed rule, a frame or receiver is any externally visible housing or holding structure, nobody uses these words, for one or more fire control components. A fire control component is one necessary for the firearm to initiate, complete, or continue the firing sequence, including but not limited to any of the following: hammer, bolt, bolt carrier, breech block, cylinder, trigger mechanism, firing pin, striker, or slide rails. Slide rails. So basically, if it can hold a trigger or fire control group, or if it has slide rails, it is a frame or receiver, which essentially means that it's a gun and must be regulated as such. They are turning these from just parts into full firearms. It continues with any firearm part falling within the new definition that is identified with a serial number must be presumed absent an official determination by ATF or reliable evidence to the contrary to be a frame or receiver. I interpret that as, if we don't know what it is and it can hold a trigger, we say it's a gun. This gives them a ton of latitude to steamroll people in court. Imagine that's so vague, and they can just do whatever they want. More than one externally visible part may house or hold a fire control component on a particular firearm, such as with a split or modular frame or receiver. Under these circumstances, ATF may determine whether or not a specific part or parts of the weapon is a frame or receiver, which may include an internal frame or chassis, at least partially exposed to the exterior to allow identification. To me, this is referencing guns with grip modules such as the P320 or IWI Masada, where the fire control group is like removable. It's like an internal chassis that pops out of the grip module. This isn't really any different than the current setup, at least as I read over it. Moving on, there is a section covering firearms parts kits. It says when a partially complete frame or receiver parts kit has reached a stage in manufacture where it may readily be completed, assembled, converted, or restored to a functional state, it is a frame or receiver that must be marked. However, they don't really cover, at least in the summary, what that readily converted part is and how that's defined. Weapon parts kits with partially complete frames or receivers and containing the necessary parts such that they may be readily completed, assembled, converted, or restored to expel a projectile by the action of explosive are firearms for which each frame or receiver of the weapon would need to be marked, aka we just got to mark these. This basically says that all incomplete firearms kits, such as the 80% Glock type kits, those are really common, AR-15 type kits, are to be serialized and regulated as guns, even though they aren't guns. A weapon, including a weapons parts kit, putting the two together, not the same thing, in which each frame or receiver of the weapon or within such kit is destroyed, is not considered a firearm. This is in reference to demilled parts where the receiver has literally been cut into pieces and needs to be welded back together. Some imported like AK type kits come like that. The rule also sets up a way to get these things marked. It says dealers/gunsmiths can mark firearms for the maker or owner of a privately made firearm, PMF, and may be licensed to engage solely in that business. It also established a term that we haven't encountered before: privately made firearms, or PMFs. Under current law, it is totally legal to make guns for personal use that do not need to be serialized, and this new stuff aims to change that. The next couple sections basically cover how these new quote-unquote firearms need to be marked. I'll leave links below so you guys can read through that part if you want. To me, it's incredibly boring and basically just applies current stuff to those firearms. Again, not guns. The section beyond that goes on to expand the definition of frame or receiver regarding a silencer or firearm muffler. Long story shorter, this basically says that any part of the can that is disposed of separately is also a silencer and must be marked as such. This is in line with how ATF has been treating things like suppressor wipes, and I believe it is just reinforced that concept that you aren't allowed to do anything on your own. It's kind of reinforcing that. This could have ramifications on solvent traps as well if they move to regulate those. We really don't know where they're headed with those as of now. The rest of it is record-keeping nonsense. It's really, really boring. I'm sorry that it's boring. Now, I didn't take the time to read the entire 115-page document. I don't think I could have done that between sleeping and getting up this morning. Because I think I would probably lose my mind if I tried to do that. So it is entirely possible that there is even more nonsense hidden within that document that they didn't put in the summary. The long and short of this is that ATF is following the orders of the child sniffer-in-chief, Joe Biden, and attempting to restrict your rights through the use of unelected government agencies. What I recommend you do, like, oh, what do we do now? What I recommend you do is submit a comment about this. Unload, tactfully of course, unload on them about why this is unacceptable government overreach and puts a burden on your ability to exercise your Second Amendment rights. A separate link to the comment area is in the description for you guys. Now, I know this is a lot to digest, but I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. Tell me what you think about all this. Is there a way that this is good? Is there any way that this could possibly be good? Does it truly matter? Maybe it doesn't to you. How bad is it in your opinion? After you unload your thoughts, be sure to hit the like button so the algorithm doesn't bury this news. And don't forget to get subscribed as well. And of course, as always, thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon.